On January 9th, at about 2 a.m. in Bratsk, Irkutsk region, the local military registration and enlistment office caught fire. According to the Astra publication, the police detained a suspect in Arson, 21-year-old sound engineer of the local television and radio company, Dmitry.
On the website of the TV and radio company, Dmitry is no longer on the list of employees, and the company itself said that Dmitry M. no longer works here. The company refused to answer the question about the reason, as well as the question about the detention of the sound engineer in connection with the suspicion of arson at the military registration and enlistment office. TV and radio company Bratsk regularly publishes materials supporting the military invasion of Ukraine by the Russian Federation, from a post by the Astra publication on Telegram.
Repressions and persecution of Russians continue. On January 9th, 46-year-old Igor Pascar, who is accused of setting fire to the Krasnodar department of the Federal Security Service, during a court hearing told how he was tortured after his arrest. Pascar is the first to be tried as a terrorist for anti-war arson.
I was asked why I did it. I replied that I would like to use Article 51 of the Constitution on the right not to testify against oneself. The next moment a bag was put on my head, rings were put on the middle fingers of both hands, and current discharge began to pass. At first they didn't ask me anything, they looked at how much I could withstand. They lowered my pants and with a rubber object, apparently a dildo, they tried to penetrate into the rectum. I realized that I was being photographed in this position. Perhaps they wanted to blackmail me in the future.
On June 14, 2022, Igor Pascar threw a Molotov cocktail on doorstep of the office of the Federal Security Service in Krasnodar. After this action, Pascar did not try to escape, but according to him, applied yellow and blue paint to his face and waited for the arrest.
My action is purely peaceful. It was supposed to show all the opponents of this monstrous war that they are not alone, but to the Ukrainian neighbors that not everyone here is brainwashed by state propaganda. Igor Pascar, anti-war activist during the court session on January 9, 2023, from an article of the Media Zona publication.
Barnaul journalist Maria Ponomarenko, accused in the case of military fakes, asked the judge to return her to the pretrial detention center from house arrest in protest against the mobilization. This is reported by the Telegram channel Rus News. However, the court denied her application.
Maria wanted to show by personal examples that it was better to go to jail than to get her hands dirty with the blood of innocents, to become disabled or to die. Dmitry Shitov, attorney of Maria Ponomarenko, from a post by the Rus News Telegram channel.
The reason for initiating proceedings against Maria Ponomarenko was her post on Telegram about the shelling of the drama theater in Mariupol. She was arrested on April 23rd. On November 14th, her preventive measure was changed to house arrest. Ponomarenko faces up to 10 years in prison. Also, for anti-war posts in social networks, 19-year-old student from Arkhangelsk, Olesya Krivtsova, was included in the list of terrorists and extremists. She is accused of discrediting the Russian army and justifying terrorism. The student faces 10 years in prison. In an interview with Sever Realities, the relatives of the girl said that during the search which took place at her house on December 26th, one of the security officers stood over Krivtsova with a sledgehammer.
Olesya did not see the search. She was taken out of the apartment 10 minutes after the security forces broke into it. According to her husband, the search surprisingly went smoothly. But first, one of the security officials stood over her with a sledgehammer, thereby intimidating her. Further, an employee of the Center E told her that this was greetings from Wagner private military company. He said the same to her husband. Natalia, mother of Olesya Krivtsova, in an interview with Sever Realities.
Russian human rights activists say that since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, repression against Russians who are opposed to the war has intensified. Lawyer Evgenia Chirikova says that Putin's regime is doing everything possible to show the complete absence of rights of its citizens.
Есть очень достойные люди.
There are very decent people, activists, who go out to direct action protests, who set fire to military enlistment officers, who do everything possible to ensure that, for example, trains with military equipment do not reach Ukraine, and they are actually in a huge risk zone. Because not long ago Medvedev suggested shooting these people, and if they are caught by the regime, it means torture and terrible treatment and anything else. So honestly, if you feel there is any danger for such activists, leave immediately.
According to Evgenia Chirikova, repression, torture and persecution of opponents of Putin's policy will be carried out by the security forces in the future. Their goal is to keep their own citizens in fear. Reported by Roman Smoler, Victoria Sinko, UATV News.